And I think too, you know, maybe in the U.S. they have maybe a bit more. They have more people, so something a little more esoteric has a chance because just via population percentiles, you know. In Canada, it is a little harder to be different because there's not as many of us to support it, you know.
We do have a good art scene though, like with the CBC and things like that.
Yeah,
so it does work a little bit.
Yeah. God bless the CBC for keeping us all informed and intelligent and smart and moving forward. And for my career, it's been absolutely essential. Yeah, it would be sad to see that change in any way. It's a very lucky instrument of culture we have in Canada.
You mentioned the States, and I know you just released your first record there not too long ago.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I think it's kind of a bogus thing, you know what I mean? Like,
why that one? Out of all of them?
Well, I think when we finally said, okay, well, let's release a record in the United States, like, I think because I got popular or started to look like I was going to get popular in Europe, we completely negated the whole America game, and we went to Europe and we lived there and toured there extensively, and all of a sudden 10 years have gone by and it's like, oh, well, I don't really feel like traveling in the same kinds of ways I used to. I still do, but I have a vision one day of being more still. Anyway, so I was like, well, what are we going to release in the US? And it seemed like, well, why don't we just start at the beginning? You know, I don't know what we would have done that would have been. But you know what? With that said, I just thought, well, it's kind of weird. Like the internet, you're allowed to have anything. You can get it for free, and it seems like kind of an odd thing to do. But I guess as an official release, it's pretty neat. But it doesn't really affect my day-to-day. I haven't done many interviews, or I'm still not touring a whole lot there. I don't have a label supporting it. It's sort of a slow thing. And what I find is when I do tour the US now, because of the internet and because of the years of touring and what little sort of bits of interesting success I've had here and there, it's all filtered anyways to parts of the world I've never been. So, you know, I can still go to New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco and still fill a small club, you know, and it's only because it's been years and years of traveling and working and releasing records and being present on the internet that kind of has allowed me to do that. But it'd be nice if it was a little bit bigger, but it takes an incredible amount of effort to build a career nowadays, you know? There's so many things vying for people's attention, and there's a lot of methods by which humans entertain themselves, you know? Back in the 70s, it was movies, a bit of television, and always records, you know? I remember as a kid walking into the Eaton's downtown Huntsville, and the first thing you saw walking in was racks and racks of Supertramp's Breakfast in America. Like, it was something that everybody bought, you know, music was part of everybody's life. It's not so much the same anymore, and people's tastes are more fractured, and you can find more varieties of music in more varieties of places, so it's not as focused as it was.
Is that why Milk was released so differently?
Milk was released a bit.
Or is being released?
Yeah, is being released. I think it's just because clearly no one has solved the problem of the fact that people now steal music instead of buy it. So, so while we all kind of swim around in our, and to figure out how we're going to change attitudes about that kind of thing, you know, we just figured it would be fun to do something different. And because we're not tethered to a label and we're not tethered to having to have 50 meetings about anything, it was like, well, why don't we just do this? It was one phone call. Yeah, okay, good, done. You know, and it just seemed like something to keep people interested, to keep me interested. I get bored of myself real fast. So, but we also released Meat Like That, but you know, it came out
somewhat similar.
Yeah, and I think the vinyl copies of Milk actually show up in Edmonton in a couple days. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, there is an actual sort of release coming. It all seems so funny now because release, no release doesn't really seem to, you know, there are people still buying records, but it's just such a different thing now. At first, it didn't feel like I was being affected by the theft of music, but now I feel it. And it's more pervasive than it would appear, you know, because there's just less money in the coffers to promote one's career. That means, you know, there's less money to tour. There's less, like the one thing that creates less for a whole host of things. And it's unfortunate. So people are really struggling with that. I'm very lucky. I was just saying to my manager the other day that it's nice that I started 10 or 11 years ago, because it's even tougher now. You'd think it was easier with the internet, but there's more competition. There's more wash of just average. You know, there's just more. And when For Him or the Girls came out in 1999, I didn't own a computer. I didn't have an email address.
Just record the tape? What were you doing?
Yeah, I recorded a tape.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
When we talked 6 years ago now, you had said you thought the illegal downloading had actually helped you because it was bringing more people out to shows. Because your music was just getting out there more.
I think I was maybe trying to be cool and toe the indie line. There probably is some of that. There probably is some of that. But I think I'd have to say, on the whole, it's more for me, I'm critical of the cultural disposition. You know, like the fact that we now live in a very disposable society, and music contributes in many ways to that, you know. Kids know that, the kids know a lot of stuff. It's hard to fool a kid. So if you're trying to shove some crap down their throat that is virtually, you know, worthless, then it will be treated as such, you know. I think, and you know, I see these indie kids saying that, oh, it's cool because the music should be like this and it helps. But from somebody who's been in the business quite a while and who has some understanding of how to build a career alone without the help of too many other people, every penny counts. And so if those pennies are starting to disappear, all of a sudden there's compromises are made on so many fronts, you know. And so, yeah, I think it's also just a sad comment that we don't value what people create, you know. We're raised to be, you know, nice, dutiful, tax-paying citizens who don't ask too many questions and watch the TV and believe the commercials and believe the politicians and believe the 24 News hyperbole and to just be consumers. Don't create, don't do that. Just sit back and passively take it in. And it's tough. I think our culture is really suffering from a bit of, just a bit of lack of care and lack of understanding. I think that even from the food we eat and the things we read, and I think that there's no real sense that quality begets quality begets quality, you know. I think that we kind of live in a bulk for cheap is better kind of
for sure.
universe at the moment.
That being said, you're selling out concerts across the country.
Yeah, but that's been 10 or 11 years in the making, you know. I finally have a tech person after 11 years, so I can sit here with you and do this interview while my stage is getting set up. I've never had that in my whole life. And so it's just, these things come very slowly. Like if you're not a Nickelback, if you're not a Nelly Furtado, if you're not one of these, like there's very few people in Canada like me who make a good living in the middle. You know, there's a lot of people on the fringes, whether your fringe is indie and struggling or massive and incredibly wealthy. There's not many people like me who kind of have my thing, but it takes constant work.